Hello, everyone. My name is Montserrat Vargas. I work in financial aid and special funding. I'm going to go ahead and enter my information in the chat box just so that it's there. You can take it down as I present or at the end of the presentation. My presentation isn't very long. I work with 5 different grants that help students with assistance for tuition, for books, and for supplies. There are differences in between the 5 grants, and I'm going to cover those in just a moment. All right. There is a bit of a difference between traditional financial aid and special funding. First, we're going to cover just in general and broad what is financial aid. It can come in the form of loans, scholarships, work study, employment grants, any assistance that offsets the student's responsibility for covering their tuition. And the different sources of financial aid are from the federal government, from the state, from colleges and universities. There's private sources, there's employers. And did you all see my screen go away?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, I got an alert saying that my PowerPoint was about to stop working. I'm going to try again. Technology. It's snowing in April. PowerPoint isn't functioning correctly. All right.
well, we're just happy that we have some technology. I agree. Thank you so much.
Okay. Let's go ahead and continue. I think that was the last slide that we left off of. And this combination of funding can be mixed. Students don't necessarily have to just receive one source. Special funding at YVC, we have the Basic Food and Employment Grant, which is also known as BFET, the Early Achievers Grant, the Opportunity Grant, the Worker Retraining Grant, and the Workforce Grant. The Basic Food and Employment Training Grant is for students who are receiving any type of basic food, employment, or training benefit through the state. And usually students go through DSHS services to qualify for this. And while they do intake, a student is then referred to our program here at YVC. And the assistance that they receive is basically, it doesn't always come in the form of funding. It comes in a understanding that while the student is in school, they are able to receive childcare services through DSHS without having to do job searches, without having to provide any other type of activity that DSHS requires as a part of people who qualify for BFED and are receiving their services. While in school, students who are on the BFED program, they are able to receive regular check-ins with the coordinator. Her name is Josie Garza. She works out of the DCO building. And these check-ins are used to keep track of students. If they're struggling, if there's other resources that are needed, it's a time where the student touches base just to make sure there aren't any other barriers. The Early Achievers Grant is a program. It's a grant that we have here at YVC. And through the state, they provide a big allocation to all of the community and technical colleges. And this is for a specific group of people. It is for anybody who's employed at a childcare, who's a childcare provider, anybody who is running a home daycare, who works at a school and does early childhood education, such as preschool, And the grant helps students with assistance for tuition and books. And there's also a contact person. Her name is Denise Paikuli. I can provide those names in the chat as well with the according grant. And that person also touches base with the students to make sure that if there's anything that you need, if you need an additional resource, if you're struggling with classes, you're connected to the right people. The third grant that we have here on campus is called the Opportunity Grant. This grant provides assistance with tuition, fees, books, and it's for low-income students who are enrolled in specific high-demand programs here at YVC. The assistance comes in the form of funding for tuition, for fees, for books, and for supplies. There is a small pot of emergency funding available to students, and the process is pretty easy. You request emergency funding. We give you a form to take to your counselor. It gets emailed to your teachers, and then it comes back to us for review. And then there's also student support, which is also in the form of touching base with you, making sure that if you need any other type of assistance, if you had an emergency, we set you up with that emergency funding, or at least with the application to get that going. The neat thing about this grant is that the emergency funding that's available, even though it is a small pot for the school year, it has been granted to students facing hardships that are very common. For example, there was a student who applied for emergency funding for gas money. This student was driving to and from school from a neighboring town, and it was just becoming too expensive to come to morning and evening classes for 1 quarter. Another instance was when a student's house was broken into and her laptop was taken. And in order for her to continue doing homework at home, she had to replace that laptop. And she applied, explained the situation, was able to attach a copy of the police report, and she was granted funding to purchase another laptop. The worker retraining grant. This grant is a one-time grant. It's for individuals who are receiving unemployment benefits, who have lost their job due to economic hardship, who need to change careers in order to re-enter the workforce. There's a lot of other stipulations. There's also people who need to go back to school for retraining because their employer is requesting it. There's also what is called displaced homemaker. And this doesn't necessarily have to be a result of a divorce. It could be you're living at home with your parents, your father lost his job, so now the income coming into the household is substantially lower. That's another stipulation, and that's how some students qualify. And then there's also expanded eligibility, which means you're new to the college, you have under 45 credits, you're working on a vocational technical degree, and you meet the criteria for worker retraining. This grant provides assistance in the form of funding for tuition, fees, books, as well as supplies. There's also what is called completion aid for students who are about to complete their degree. This form of aid doesn't necessarily have to be for books or for tuition. It can be for a nursing student who's graduating and is going to need scrubs or tennis shoes. It can be for a student who is graduating or who is in the automotive program and they're needing tools. The amounts are different, but I know that the assistance is used for a broad number of things, not just one specific thing. And then there's also student support. And the student support comes in the same form as the other ones, where there's a person who touches base with you, and depending on anything that's going on, once again, a financial barrier, an emergency, this person makes sure that you're connecting to the right person. All right, and this is the 5th grant. This is Work First grant, and this is for students who are receiving temporary assistance through DSHS, and it's called TANF. And this is for students who are also pursuing a professional technical training program. It helps with tuition, with fees, books, supplies in some cases. They also, the coordinators for this program also make sure that the students are receiving any type of educational, advising, personal support. They're referring students out to other community-based organizations. If, for example, they need childcare assistance, they're referred to DSHS. If they need job shadowing positions, they reach out to the community and make sure that the student's receiving some type of job shadow training, so that if their program isn't what they expected it to be, they have an opportunity to change that program before they finish it. I know that there's a lot of other things that the Work First grant includes, but those are some of the main ones. I'm going to cover the cost of attendance just so that we can get an idea out there. Can everybody see all of my screen, or does it cut off?
We can see your screen.
Okay, perfect.
It cuts off at the very bottom. So just to let you know.
Okay. All right, so the different costs here are separated by a student who's independent and a student who's dependent. And what that means is, if you're independent, you're over the age of 24, or you have a child, or you're married, or you're deemed independent by our process that we have here on campus. And this just means that you are not relying on the financial support of your parents. If you are a dependent student, this means that you are most likely under the age of 24. You are still depending on mom and dad's or guardians' financial support. And these are the different costs of attendance. And it's separated by tuition and fees, the books, the room and board, personal technology, and transportation. And these numbers here don't indicate the amount that you're going to receive as a financial aid package. This just determines how big your budget is. So within a 9-month school year, each quarter you're allowed 6,000 some if you're an independent student. So we divide that amount by 3, and each quarter we just make sure you don't exceed that. But as I mentioned before, you can receive a number of funding sources. If you qualify for the Early Achievers Grant because you're in early childhood education and you work at a child care facility, and you can also receive Pell or the Washington College Grant. And quickly, those amounts add up. One of them may cover the cost of your tuition, the other one the cost of your books. And then what you receive as a refund is what we as the college see going to room and board, personal technology, transportation, your books if they exceeded the amount that we allotted for. Any questions about this? I know that's a lot of information to take in.
You can definitely use the chat too to ask a question.
All right, that was all that I had to present. I'm gonna open it up for questions. If anybody has anything you'd like to ask, it doesn't necessarily have to be about the presentation. It can be about financial aid in general. I do know the basics. And as I wait, I'll go ahead and include the information. I'm not sure if anybody was interested in a specific grant, but I can include all of the names of the contact people, for example, for worker retraining and EFED, for the Early Achievers Grant.
People are being quiet today.
Yes.
And I can really see why there is so much funding out there available. So hopefully, here's a question. What are the specific high demand careers that are considered for the opportunity grant?
Oh, this is a very good question. The ones that we considered are any of the allied health programs, pharmacy tech, surgical tech, medical assisting. We also have the business technology programs, which are office assistant, administrative assistant, bilingual office assistant. There's a legal office assistant one as well. Nursing, the NAC program, any of the IT associate degrees as the certificates, the associate's degrees in early childhood education that are not transferring degrees. So for example, we have just a general associate's in early childhood education that does not transfer. That one also qualifies, as well as all of the early childhood certificates and all of the IBEST programs, which are, IBEST is a program here on campus that does half college courses and the other half is adult basic education courses. The majority of these students are working towards a high school diploma or GED or trying to improve their math and English skills.
Thank you for that terrific question. Do anyone else have a good question here to ask? It's a great opportunity. I think that means we don't have any questions. But now, hopefully you're able to write down the information. So if you do have questions, you can reach out to Ms. Vargas and she has her contact information. Oh, another question. Can you please clarify the ECE eligible opportunity grant?
The ECE?
The ECE, yes.
ECE is early childhood education. And okay, let's see. You want me to go through the specific degrees and certificates? Because we have, for example, on certificates, we have a lot of students who come and take maybe 1 or 2 quarters, complete certificates required for working in child care centers or home daycares. These are the initial certificate, the short certificate, and then if students can go on to the 1-year program for that, it's the state certificate. And that is the name of them. They're short certificates in early childhood education, and these are required by early childhood centers as well as home daycare providers.
And the question was asked, do the certificate program, do they qualify?
They do qualify.
Yeah, excellent questions.
Yes. And so do the IT certificates. There's a Cisco program certificate that YVC offers. That one qualifies. I know that there's probably another 2. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but any of the certificates that are under IT qualify, as well as the IT associate's degrees. And what I mentioned, the NAC, the nursing assistant certificate, that one also qualifies. Even though it doesn't qualify for general financial aid, it would still qualify under opportunity.
So you can definitely see that there are a lot of different funding sources that you can take advantage of if you just know where to look for them. So hopefully this has been really useful information for all of you to think about what kind of sources of money you might be eligible for. Any other questions? Well, we have a couple questions in the chat. Let's see, the first one is to start your own daycare at home. What programs would you recommend?
For that type of information, it is best to see an advisor who works in that department. I have general knowledge, example certificate names, don't necessarily know the classes that fall under each certificate, but the advisor would be the person to go to. And that would be anyone in the education department.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of the advisors that are available, and perhaps the navigators that we have for the different pathways could help as well.
Yes.
The next question, is there a way to learn more about the ECE because you cut out sometimes when explaining?
On our website, I'm going to stop sharing this so that I can go to our website. It's not off of our financial aid part, but it is on our website. Give me a moment so that I can find it, and I will start sharing my screen when I get to that.
Terrific, thank you. So you have some time. If you're any other questions, you can definitely put them in the chat or just ask them if you'd like.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen again. Once you reach our website, under what we offer, you're able to see the drop-down degrees and pathways, and the one with the world icon says social sciences and education. That's what you want to click on. And then on the actual page, you are able to go into the education area, and associate's degrees as well as the certificates are listed there, and you can click on view degree information. And you'll have information here about all of the associate's degrees, and then what are called stackable certificates. This is going to give you information about what we offer and where some of the programs are transferable to. It's still best practice to reach out to a pathway navigator or to an advisor, just to make sure that you are selecting the correct classes that are available. And the contact information is listed right there. Or you can also send an email if you'd like.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Onse, while you're on the website, will you show where to apply?
For the different grants?
Yeah, your special funding application.
Yes. All right, so we want to go ahead and click, or just hover. You don't have to click over the getting started. And the one that you want to click on is income-based tuition programs. On here, you will be provided information about all of the grants that I just covered. And if you click on each one, you'll receive more information. I'm going to go ahead and click on the special funding application. This one covers 3 grants. It covers basic food and employment training, it covers worker retraining, and it covers the opportunity grant. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the opportunity grant. And you get a little bit of information about what it covers. You can get more information about the opportunity grant or about the IBEST programs. And once you get to the next page, and after looking at the list of programs, you will see this rectangle. You go ahead and click on it. I see your question, Yessie. I will answer it in just a moment. And this application is pretty straightforward. You enter your information, and once you're done, you click submit, and we receive a copy of it. Doesn't go anywhere else. It just goes into our database. And when you submit it, it's available to us. And at any point, if you have questions about anything on here, or if you don't know what something is, definitely try to get a hold of us in financial aid or myself, and we will try our best to explain that. Yes, Solis, when are grants available year round? We have some grants that all of these are available year round. The opportunity grant, the worker retraining, work first, BFET, and which one am I missing? Early Achievers Grant. These are actually awarded to students on a quarterly basis. At the end of inter-quarter, each of the coordinators did recruitment, and they made sure the application was complete. They deemed the students eligible, and then they were awarded the following quarter. The funding is available all year long, and you can apply, let's say, winter quarter. Once you go to advising and you know what you're taking spring quarter, you can apply for opportunity grant, worker retraining, work first, early achievers. And then by the time spring rolls around, if you're eligible, you'll receive the funding. Granted, if there's available funding. At the time and over the last couple of years, I want to say because of COVID, we have had plenty of funding each quarter. But as always, it's always best practice to apply as soon as you can. And if you have questions, let us know.
Any other questions? It looks like we don't have any other questions. So thank you for those fantastic follow-up questions, because I think that really helped everyone to understand the funding sources and how to apply. Obviously, Ms. Vargas, you have a lot of information and expertise in this. So thank you so much for presenting this valuable information today.
You're very welcome. And I work in the financial aid department. Sorry, I took down my PowerPoint. I was going to say, there's my contact information, but I put it in the chat as well. So
wonderful.
Shoot me an email or give me a call, and I will do my best to answer your questions or refer you to the appropriate person.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to attend, all the students that attended today. And thank you again, Ms. Vargas, for taking time out of your day, your busy work day, to present this valuable information. Just to remind everyone again, this will be available on our financial literacy page, probably within the next few days, I would imagine. So if you wanted to go back and review it, because I can see that this is definitely complicated, and there's a lot of support services out there and grants that you might want to really look into.